This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 358. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
You know, Brandon, I don't know if it's the smartest dumb thing that you ever came up with or the dumbest smart thing you ever came up with, but either way, it remains true. God, it's better to win than it is to lose.
It is better to win than lose, and I feel like the Seahawks, this was our 2021 Super Bowl. Like, we went undefeated against the 49ers. Hopefully It helps to keep them out of the playoffs. And because of those things, if that's how this season ends and based on how the season started, that's what we accomplished, I'm prepared to accept that as our win for this year.
There you go. I'm not, because we still can upset and spoil the Rams and Cardinals parties a little bit. And so let's be sure to do that.
A little bit, but those two teams, they would really have to stink to miss out on the playoffs at this point. And as bad as the NFC is, okay, you're
miss out on the playoffs. Like, maybe just, have a game where when they play us, like, half their team gets injured, or when they play us and we win, and so it knocks them from the 2 seed to the 5 seed, or crap like that. Yeah, I mean, they're probably both going to make the playoffs. I mean, the Rams are still kind of up in the air. We'll see, but. It's we have the opportunity. So that wasn't just the Super Bowl. That was a playoff game. We've got more parties to ruin.
And for a playoff game, there was a lot that happened in this game. It was one of the more entertaining games that I can remember. Well, at least for this season. And Brian Delude broke it down, and I'm looking forward to seeing Brian in Houston this weekend. He broke it down. He said, this was the weirdest game in a long time. Ambulance on the first play. Like, how many people even remember the fact that there was an ambulance on the field for the first play? That's how long ago, by the time I read this, I was like, oh, that did happen. Fake punt on the first drive, safety, missed extra point, Penny being effective. We go for it on fourth down instead of going 2 scores up. We then turn over the football on a stupid play call, mind you. Great fourth down defense, then a legal snap penalty for a penalty that hurts us and was in our favor. We did not get called for PI on the third down end zone pass at the end. AP ties Jim Brown. Eskridge gets his first NFL TD. Everett was Butterfingers. Dunlap's first sack of the season. DK behaved. Wilson looked like Wilson more so than lately. Pete won a challenge. We survived Kittle having 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. Posick recovered a Wilson fumble. Forgot to mention we won time of possession. Just a lot going on in this game. If you wanted to build a bingo card for a football game, there you go. There's your starter.
And a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah, like that. Brian summed that up pretty well. I mean, all of the nuttiness that was in that game. And that's why I have a little bit of a hard time getting fired up about the team's overall performance, because it's kind of like that was just one of those weird, quirky ass games. And whichever way it came out is kind of the way that it came out. I'm not so sure that they figured anything out per se, but then again, there were some things that were just really encouraging. The idea that they stuck with and exploited the quick passing game in some, short stuff over the middle and out in the flats, like, just that was huge. Hitting some quick slants, things like that. That was nice to see.
Well, let's start there, because it was nice to see, but it also was not effective in the first half. I was really surprised at how bad it was. Just because all of the excitement that happened later on, I kind of forgot just how ineffective and bad the offense was to start the game against the Niners. And part of it, I think, was, the 49ers came to play. They were being physical. And early on, I remember wondering if the Seahawks were going to be able to match that physicality that the Niners seemed to bring in that game.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I guess I should have phrased that a little differently in terms of, yes, they got to the quick passing game and all that, and it finally worked, but it didn't work out of the gate. That's for dang sure. I mean, there was a point in that first half where I'm wondering, does Pete even survive the season? I mean, we had one drive, back-to-back drives, one drive that we had a 2nd and 43 followed by a 3rd and 23. And then the following drive, a 3rd and 24.
Yeah.
Like, when your offense has back-to-back drives, when you have a down and plus 20.
And it's coming off of a turnover and you're almost already in the red zone.
Oh my gosh. So the second and 43 drive, that was off of the Wags pick, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. And how many times have we seen that this year where the defense or special teams sets up the offense down, sets them up and it just in shop, ready to go, like down in the red zone, and they promptly go backwards like 25 yards. That's maddening. That is so maddening. They've done it. How many times would you say? At least a half a dozen.
Oh gosh, yeah, to where at least it's been in some kind of range where you expect a score and then to get absolutely nothing. Yeah, it was the Bobby Wagner interception. It put him at the 28, and then they have the holding, and then they have the fumble, and then they're back on their side of the football field. Then they recover by running it up the middle for 11. Then Russell scrambles to put him in kind of field goal range, at least to kick a 56-yarder, and it doesn't even make it to the uprights.
I want to talk about Pete and some of his stuff like later on throughout the show because
let's go back to the first decision by Pete in this game, because it was the fake punt that went to Travis Homer that led to the first touchdown of the game, and this was fun.
Brandon Ayuk and a fake. The fake is coming near side 40. Midfield, it's Travis Homer. 40. He's going to go 30. He's running 20, 15, 10, 5. Flips into the end zone. Touchdown, Seahawks. 73 yards. Pull out all the stops on the first drive of the game. Score any way you can. And the Seahawks just did on a fake punt. Travis Homer, the up back, takes the snap, goes around the left side, and takes it 73. Had a blocker in front, cuts back inside, and he was gone.
You know it's a good play when you get a Wyman chuckle in the replay there. I heard
you would think it was a Wyman chuckle, but it wasn't.
Oh, who was the color announcer?
Paul
Moyer?
Yes. It was Paul Moyer. I don't know. I was going to ask you what happened to Wyman.
I don't know. I don't know when he took over. We haven't been playing these highlights because they haven't been winning. So I haven't been keeping up on the announcer situation.
Yeah, this was the first game I'd listened to for weeks and weeks. I happened to be driving. But yeah, yes, it was a unique play. Go for it on fourth down. To be honest, so out of all of the risk management decisions that Pete made in this game, this is the one that I liked the most. It was the most surprising. This team needed a jump start early after going, basically 3 and out. I just thought that was a smart call. I'm glad they were aggressive and glad they had that in there. Sounds like Homer could kind of do it whatever he wanted.
Well, it sounded like they were looking for a particular look from the 49ers on special teams. And I'm sure that they thought, because if you go back and watch that play, there wasn't anybody who was, based on how the special teams unit, came off their blocks and really set Homer up for just having a ton of dudes to block for him. He had to make one guy miss. I don't know where the rest of the team was, but I guess it was based off that look that Homer knew that if they saw it, it was go time. Yeah.
And he called his own number, which cracked up Ballore to like no end, like at his press conference. He's like, well, yeah, he's going to call it.
Of course he's going to call it. He gets to take the ball.
Like, yeah, thanks a lot, Nick. Just throwing him under the bus, making him look selfish on a cool play. Even if that hadn't have worked, I would have been totally fine with that situation and going for it and trying to find a spark and be aggressive early. I like that one.
I just like the fact that it was in Pete Carroll. I know some of the calls, they were a bit head scratching at times, particularly at the end of the game, but I think I'll take that if it means taking some of the other chances that you need to take with this team to win.
Okay. These aren't mutually exclusive things. Like you can have them all together at the same time. Pete being aggressive and then Pete being aggressive in the right moments. You can have both those at the same time.
Can we? Because I haven't seen it. I don't believe it.
It's possible. I know it's possible in the universe. It has to be. Because I just don't understand the thinking. There's like 6:30, 6:40 left in the game. You're up 7. You were driving down there.
It was 4th and 1 at the 4-yard line.
4th and 1 at the 4-yard line. Okay.
And they had been jellying it down the 49ers' throats up to that point.
A little bit in moments and spots, but all game long, they weren't super effective running the football. So I'm not excited about that. And plus, on top of all that, let's talk about situational football. Kick the fucking field goal. I was screaming at the screen in my camper.
Yeah.
I'm sure all the other people in the RV park thought like there was a murder happening in there because, just kick the damn ball. Go up by 2 10, scores because there's only 6:30 left in the game. So for them to you're going to get 1 possession in there and them max 2. If they're down 2 scores and they can only max get 2 possessions, then at worst case scenario, you put yourself in the same position you put yourself in at the end of the game anyways because of the fumble and everything going down the stretch. Like to where you're on the goal line trying to protect the win. They can go in and tie it up or whatever. I don't understand that one for the life of me. That's a no-brainer. Kick the field goal.
Well, I understand it. They started that drive with 11 minutes left to go in the 4th quarter. So it had been probably about a 5-minute drive. And you're thinking, okay, one, if you can get a first down there, you can run more time off the clock, which they did. They ended up running it all the way down to 4:15. So another 2 minutes came off the clock based off of that 1 first down. And then if you get the touchdown there, it is over. You have iced it. So I understand the thinking behind it, but
if you kick the field goal there, you damn near ice it.
You do.
You like 93% ice it.
You do. No, I'm not saying it's not the smart play because, yes, I had the same thought. Why not just kick the field goal, get out of there? But I was emotional too. I wanted them to go for it. Now, that play call was weird. That 4th and 1 play call, running out a shotgun and handing it off to Travis Homer to run it up the middle. When that happened, I'm like, what are you doing? Like that is recipe for disaster. And luckily they got it. But
how many times over the course of the Pete Carroll era have we seen them on 3rd and short, 4th and short, run it out of the freaking shotgun?
Their favorite plays are to run it out of shotgun or go 5 wide and
bubble screen
or you don't even see where the pass goes because Russ doesn't have time to get it off because he's running for his life immediately because they don't have any extra protection.
I don't know, man. I just don't understand Pete half the time when it comes to balancing these decisions. I don't get it. I don't understand how his brain works.
Corbin writes in, says, "Hey guys, I know we won, but I have a do better because this made my blood boil. Travis Homer and Adrian Peterson could not seal the game to the point that made me feel safe about our lead. When you are at the 1, you don't fumble or lose yardage. You put it into the end zone. I'm almost out of pills to make my heart attacks go away. Do better."
Yeah.
Corbin's too young to be dealing with heart attack pills now.
This is what that team will do to you. It'll add 15 years subtract 15 years from your lifespan, like easily. Yeah, it's all right. Hey, look, Corbin, the good news is that all of us together, we're all going to be in the cardiac ward of the Seattle hospital in the next couple of years. We'll just all be together in one room.
Yeah. You think it's going to take
a couple of years? We'll call it the Ring of Honor.
You think it's going to take a couple of years when we get reports this week that Russ, he has a new list now of teams that he's willing to accept a trade to?
Sure. Yeah. He's got another list for sure. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's definitely out there. Anybody who says they know what the hell is going to happen this offseason with Russ right now, unless it's Russell Wilson, they can shut the catfish up because nobody knows. People are asking me all the time, right? What's happening to Russ this year? I have no idea. I mean, there's 1,000 things that can happen between now and the end of the season still. I have no idea.
I don't even know if Russ knows. And if there were a list, then why wouldn't his agent just put it out this time like he did last time?
Right. Yeah. No, I saw that one.
This is a super secret list this time.
Well, and the fun part is, I watched that little clip of that guy that
Jordan
had
Schultz.
That report. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, well, there's 4 teams that I think he wants to go to that, maybe these are the ones. And, that makes sense. Maybe. I don't know. Like, it was so, like, he had zero. I talked to a source, none of that crap. Just, here's 4 teams he wants to go to.
Just wishy-washy that it sounds good.
Yeah, nobody asked him, well, says who?
Sources, obviously.
He didn't even do that. He didn't even say, I've heard people say that, like, none of that crap that they do. He just was like, here's 4 teams Russ will go to. Just pulls him out of his ass.
Did he say will or could? Because that would be easy. If I could come up with 4 teams that Russ could go to and report it.
Yeah. He could go to Manchester United. He could go to the Cowboys. He could go to the, Saskatchewan Rough Riders. He could go,
I'm glad you picked the Rough Riders. If there were a team to go to, it would be Saskatchewan.
Right. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of teams. I mean, hell, he could end up being a Milwaukee Brewer. I mean, like, he could go to a lot of teams. You're right.
Yeah. If everything lined up the way it needed to.
It's just the point. The media already salivating over trying to get Russ out of town.
Let us get through the season, people.
Let us get through the catfish week after finally a win that feels so good over the dirty freaking Niners, who we swept this year. The silver lining of our season so far. Like, you can't even let us have that.
Not only swept, but shut them out in the second half even. And it all started. Nick Bellore, you mentioned it before, special teams master.
Benjamin at his own 10, outside the numbers on the left side, turns upfield, ball is on the ground, 2 Seahawks dive toward it, so do the 49ers. Let's see who comes up with it. It could be a huge play for the Hawks if they can come up with this football. They're trying to unpile them right now. Seahawks football down at the 25-yard line. Benjamin had it stripped.
And do you remember what they did with that great field position?
It was something bad.
It was the Gerald Everett interception where
That's right.
Was that the one where he punted it up in the air?
Yeah.
And,
bobble punt.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those where you just go, yeah. I mean, I don't even know how you process that as a player or a fan in real time. I mean, it's just like, what? How? No, how? Like, there's no way.
I know I was thinking before the half, they get the touchdown and they get it within 2 points. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. This team's going to make a run for it. And be in this game. You had the Adrian Peterson touchdown. He gets the tying up for the record, which Pete seemed to be. Did they bring in Adrian Peterson just to tie up that record? If
you're the one to complain about this, I'm going to be so angry with you because this is right up your alley. Because you're the one who loves, Franco Harris, former Seahawks Hall of Famer.
We can now add Adrian Peterson to the list of Hall of Fame Seahawks players.
Right. And then if somebody questions you about AP now, you'd be like, look, he tied Jim Brown as a member of the Seahawks. I mean, it was a significant stint with Seattle. So you cannot be the person who complains about this.
Why not? Why can't I be? Because if this is what the team needs, I suppose, and Pete Carroll is in the position to know that, I have a hard time thinking that there isn't a younger dude. You look to Tennessee, and the guy that they put in behind Adrian Peterson after they cut him had a huge rushing day. They're looking for backs because Derrick Henry's out, and it's part of their identity. And they found a dude named Hilliard is all of a sudden, rushing for long touchdowns. Like, you can't.
Sure.
Those guys seem to be out there. And see, that's your thing. Now I'm bringing up your thing, and you're bringing up my thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, those guys are out there. Unfortunately for us, the Titans have an offensive line full of their first string offensive linemen that block for their running backs, whereas we don't. We don't have that. We haven't been able to run the ball for 2 games now. And that large part of it has to do with all the injuries up front. It's not good. So it doesn't make any difference whether it's old man AP or, young man unknown Hilliard. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going anywhere unless it's Bizarro Penny game where he actually looks okay. He didn't even get hurt.
Niners look like they might want to blitz. They do. Russ gets rid of the ball quickly. A screen pass. It's Penny. He breaks free. He's coming near side. He stiff arms the man 30. Welcome to the land of the living, buddy. What a big play by Rashad. He takes the tight screen. Left side comes all the way back across the field for 27 yards and a first down inside the 15-yard line.
Now, this is when I started to feel like, okay, maybe we can win this game. The bizarro world has turned in our favor.
Yeah, a successful screen, a middle screen.
A middle screen, and to a run with Penny where he didn't get hurt running the ball.
Yeah, how infuriating would it be for Penny to like really rip off about 5 good games in a row here and then leave and then look good somewhere else and stay healthy for like 5 years?
Yeah, who knows? It'll probably happen.
It'll probably happen.
Who is the guy, Green, who played for Holmgren that they brought him in and then he went to Green Bay and was awesome?
Or wasn't it vice versa? Didn't he?
Was it Amon Green?
Amon Green. That's who it was.
He'll be like Amon Green.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it would be very frustrating. But yeah, Penny looked good. I mean, give him his props.
He had a pass block that he picked up that everybody was jacked up about.
That was a nice block. That guy was screaming when he was coming in.
Oh, and Russ had his back to him. And if Penny doesn't pick up that, it's probably another 20-yard fumble that Posick has to recover.
Oh, yeah. It's bad news bears. So, yeah, give Penny credit for a good game. I think now's probably a decent time to talk about Gerald Everett's horrible, terrible,
no good
misadventure of a day. Yeah, really bad day.
It was about the worst game that I can think of any Seahawks player having since the Jermaine Kearse NFC Championship game where Russ kept throwing it to him and he would bounce off his hands and into the hands of the Packers players.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
There was no
too.
redeeming moment, though. Like, at least Kearse had his redemption moment.
Sure. I think that Gerald was just getting them all out at once. Like, I think we're good now for Gerald Everett mistakes going forward. He got them all out in the one game. It's over now.
I would hope so.
I mean, 2 end zone screw ups and then a fumble in your own end, I guess. Wow.
Yeah, the fumble on the little outside bubble screen play. And then the 2 interceptions. Well, the 1 interception and then the 1 fumble on the goal line. Yeah, at the end.
Some people didn't like that call handing it off to Everett there, which I didn't have any problem with the call.
Well, the weird thing is that usually works whenever another team uses it on us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, we never defend that play.
Yeah, the Chiefs use Travis Kelce that way all the time, and it works all the time.
The Niners using George Kittle that way. They didn't use it that way in this game, but George Kittle in this game was frustrating.
I am tired of George Kittle. I am over George Kittle. I don't need to see George Kittle anymore. Golly. Like, he almost Camaro'd us. Like, there came a point where you're like, especially in the first half, it's like, hey, guys, George Kittle's their one good player left.
That guy's trying to win the game for the entire team. Stop him.
And they're just so creative in getting him out on the edges and, slipping him out late and, all that stuff. But fortunately, Jimmy G is still Jimmy G, and that helped to offset any good things Kittle had to do on Sunday.
Jimmy G throwing picks to Bobby, throwing a pick to Diggs, taking a safety in the end zone.
Garoppolo 5 yards deep in the end zone. He gets it. He goes down. It's going to be a safety. It's going to be a safety for the Seahawks. Carlos Dunlap. Where have you been, my friend? What a day to come on and grab Garoppolo and throw him down to the ground for a safety. And it is tied up 23 apiece.
Where has he been?
On the bench.
4 snaps last week, 7 snaps this week. At least for the 7 snaps he was in, good things happened.
Yeah. Look, I think maybe they have him on the bench in favor of Darrell Taylor in passing situations. That's the only thing I can figure. I don't understand why you can't have them both out there. Because who out there is really better than even a struggling Dunlap?
They have Rasheem Green. They have Taylor. They have Alton Robinson.
Yeah, none of those guys are any better than Dunlap. So what are we doing? And he's as frustrated as anybody.
Yeah, you could tell after the game in the press conference, asking him why we haven't seen him. I don't know. I'm what did he call himself? A rhythm pass rusher. And it's like, this is what they want me to do. So I'm being the team guy.
Right. Right. And, he did pretty good answering it. My one favorite part of that presser was when he looks at the press after being asked, like, for the 14th time, how come you're not out on the field and how much does it piss you off? He finally looks at all of them and he's like, guys, I'm not going to have this be a negative press conference. We just won.
Right.
Yeah. I love that response from Carlos.
He just won, and the dude was responsible for the Seahawks winning.
With a single setback, Garoppolo looks. Ball is tipped up in the air. It's going to fall to the ground. The Seahawks are going to win this football game. The 4th and 3 pass was tipped at the line of scrimmage. I don't know who tipped it, but I want to go down and shake that man's hand. I might have been Dunlap. And on 4th down and goal, from the 3, the Seahawks take over, and they'll have one knee, and this game will be over. And the Seahawks will break a losing streak that has been unlike anything the Seahawks and their fans have seen in the last decade.
So he's like our closer. We just keep him on the bench, and we bring him in when it's time to close out the football game.
I mean, last year he was able to be the closer and play during the middle of the game. Like, has his whole body fallen apart that much in 1 year?
No idea.
Highly doubtful of that. And then on top of all of that, how many times did you watch Jimmy G take the snap and move precisely half of one step throughout the next 4 seconds of his drop back? Like, he just stood there in the middle of the pocket and nobody around him. So I don't see where the extra effectiveness of keeping Dunlap off of the field is. The pass rush was pretty abysmal in this game, and Jimmy was able to just sit back there and throw, Jimmy darts, but which are, it's pretty bad dart player.
Well, 1 out of 5 hits, and so you get the Kittle touchdown, and you get the a couple big plays, but then you have the misses with the Diggs interception, and where he throws it just to right to Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, one thing that I would say having Paul Moyer on the radio broadcast was helpful in comparison to maybe perhaps Wyman is he talked a lot about the Niners' propensity to only throw between the hash marks.
Right.
And over the middle, and just how you just need to pack it in there. And it's all in breaking stuff and pointing out when different dudes were sitting on it. And I learned a little bit. That was something I didn't know. And it was something the Seahawks clearly did.
Yeah, Jimmy, he needs everybody kind of right in front of him. And you can see when he throws to the sidelines and deep, those are the ones that he is usually missing on.
Right. But now he gets in trouble over the middle, too, because everybody just sits on it.
Well, and he can't see linebackers.
Well, yeah, they're invisible. I don't know if you knew.
Bobby knew.
Yeah. Put on his invisibility cloak.
So the question is, after this game, is Russ back? Because I had a comment wondering if Russ was broken after the last game, and I don't feel like we're asking questions like that after this game against the Niners. He felt like he was getting back to more of what maybe we had expected coming back from the injury.
Yeah, he was aggressive at appropriate times and checked it down at appropriate times. I mean, he didn't try to force the issue too much. And that's the Russ that we've been hoping for this entire year. And obviously he was able to hit those kind of short to medium outside the hash marks passes with a little more accuracy, and didn't have as many just flat out uncorkers like he has the last few weeks.
Right.
I don't know if I can say this team or Russ is back one way or the other. This should have been a 25-point blowout.
Oh yeah, if you don't turn the football over.
Yeah, it was so sloppy. There was still a bunch of dumb decisions throughout the game. It almost feels fortunate that we ended up with that win.
Well, yeah, it came down to that last throw by Jimmy, and
for no reason.
For no reason.
On top of all that, if we're talking about them going for it on 4th instead of kicking the field goal, the entire second half, your defense has not given up a point. Not 1 point.
Yeah.
So you kick up the field goal. Now you're up 2 scores, and your defense hasn't given up a point all half.
This is why I go back to, if we're going to get emotional, Pete, if it leads us to getting that 4th down fake punt, if it gets us to making correct challenges instead of bad ones, I'll take this version of Pete Carroll, the aggressive unnecessarily late in the 4th quarter.
I don't know. I just want a rational coach that way. But I guess we're just not going to get that.
Well, Daniel Weinholz emailed in, I found the key to our team. We are undefeated when Gerald Everett is responsible for 3 turnovers. #facts.
That's right. Stats don't lie. Right there.
Want to know. Got to keep that going.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely got to keep that going.
The other thing I wanted to say about this game, you mentioned the offensive line. It struggled. I felt like that was a big part of the struggle in the first half. And then we found out that Jake Curran is better than Kyle Fuller at left guard. And that Stone Forsythe, the 6th-round pick, is better than injured Brandon Shell.
Yeah, or at least in that game. But give both those guys a lot of credit. I mean, especially Forsythe. I mean, what was his first snap that he lines up? There's Bosa.
Right. Fortunately, they did give him some help with Disley over there.
Well, that you need to do that for sure. But I thought that Forsythe and Curran for backup offensive linemen performed rather admirably, and it did kind of get us going, and that was nice. It was fun to see the offense catch some rhythm, see Waldron have some rhythm in play calling, see Russ have some rhythm in seeing the field. It's a welcome sight to see this team play together in actual complementary football rather than anti-complementary football, which they did for the majority of the first half.
Now we'll see, can they continue it? Because this game coming up against Houston, Sunday's going to be the day that we get to find out if Russ wants Pete fired.
Yep. 100%. You're not wrong. I mean, this is a game that you drop this one, and yeah, you got to wonder how that factors into Jody Allen's thinking. Although, can we talk about that report that came out just before the game? I mean, well, Seahawks fan, they all wonder how much Jody Allen's involved. Well, Jody Allen is very involved. She is not happy, and she doesn't think this is a 1-year blip.
Right.
Okay. What the catfish does that mean? She doesn't think this is a 1-year blip? What does that mean?
I think it means that she is concerned about the direction of the team in the future, that it's not just, Russ got hurt this year and you can bring everybody back and it'll be fine for the future. That's how I took it.
Okay, maybe. Or is it like, this isn't just a 1-year blip? Like, it's even less than that. Like, this is just such a random, bizarro season that...
Oh, you're thinking of it the other way, and that it's just a half a season blip and not a 1-year blip?
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows how Jody Allen thinks? And the report just sucked. I mean, there's nothing to that other than she's not happy and she pays attention.
Well, there's always been that question of how involved is she in terms of ownership, and how involved really is any owner apart from Dan Snyder and Jerry Jones and all the bigwigs. Gosh, Paul Allen wasn't that much of a football fan. He was more of a basketball fan. So it almost sounds to me like Jody Allen's more of a football fan than Paul was.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me after listening to some Blazers talk on my drive back, where they're talking about blowing their whole thing up and what they're going to do and how involved Jody Allen is with the Blazers and if they are going to sell or whatever, right? Sounds like she's less interested in the Blazers than she is in the Seahawks. That's for darn sure.
Well, and you hear that she's been to multiple Seahawks games. So I feel like that's at least on a level of involvement that you can point to and say, well, she's going to watch.
And I think as Seahawks fans, we got to ask ourselves, because the national media won't do it, what are the actual possibilities at the end of the season, right? Because if you listen to the national media, it's, well, either Russ is gone or Pete's gone. And that's that. It's like, well, I mean, those are surely two of the options, no doubt about it. It could be that they're both gone. It could be that they're both back. A lot's going to happen here over these next 5 games. And like you said, this Texans game, like, does Russ take this one to get rid of Pete?
Well, the way that I look at it, there are 2 games remaining on the schedule that if the Seahawks lose, Pete can't keep his job. It's this one against the Texans, and it's the one coming up against the Lions. You lose either one of those games, and I feel like it's auto can.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Because the Texans aren't good.
They're worse than the Lions, in my opinion.
I think you're right. At least the Lions are trying.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that about the Texans.
No, they're just going through the motions, man. And, whether it's Davis Mills or Tyrod, it doesn't much matter. Like, they don't have anything going on over there right now.
Well, the quarterback can't solve all their issues. Their defense doesn't look like they want to play. I mean, they just cut Zach Cunningham, who was their leading tackler last season, and they paid him a boatload of money, and they just get rid of him. And I don't know if he's the only guy, because when I watch their defense, even against a division rival like the Colts, you could tell the difference. Watch this division rival game with the Niners and Seahawks and see just how much tension there is, how much both teams want. Yeah, it's there. You can feel the energy. And you watch the Colts and Texans, and it's like one of the teams is playing both of the teams are essentially playing a scrimmage, and one team's better.
Well, I dare you, Brandon. I dare you to get fired up by Lovie Smith. Let's see if Lovie can get your ass fired up, because that's the defensive coordinator for the freaking Houston Texans. You think that defense is getting fired up by Lovie to go out there and play hard in a dumpster fire of a season that Bill O'Brien created and then ownership just decided to wallow in?
Deshaun Watson just hanging out around the team for the entire season, just getting paid for doing nothing.
Yeah. And then they found, what was Culley doing before he became the head coach? Was he like a used car salesman? Like, where did they find David Culley?
He was in Baltimore, wasn't he?
He was in football? That guy's a football guy?
He's been in football a long time, I believe.
Really?
No, this isn't a major league situation, I don't think, where he was down working at Lou's Tires.
Are we sure? He might be the Kurt Warner of coaches, sans the Super Bowl run after he gets his chance. Might go back to bagging groceries.
He's been a coach even before we were born.
Well, that's how much of an impact he's made.
He was the wide receivers coach at Vanderbilt when we were born.
Oh, well, we all know the vaunted wide receivers that come out of Vandy. So
they're well known.
Yeah.
Assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, and passing game coordinator for the Ravens, 2019-2020. Before that, he was the Buffalo Bills quarterbacks coach. How did you not know that, Buffalo Bills guy?
Have you ever heard of Culley before this year?
And only when he got the job with the Texans did I ever hear of him. There you
go. Just a tough year for Texans and Texans fans and all of that. I'm imagining you guys should have a good time at this game.
Well, I would hope so.
Even without Jamal, who we haven't talked about.
Yeah, Jamal done for the season. I mean, the reason why I feel like we haven't talked about it is that I don't know if it much matters. The good thing is that Ryan Neal, man, if we would have known that he could be Jamal Adams, like 85% of Jamal Adams before Adams got traded for, because even when Adams was out last year, we felt like Ryan Neal was doing a good job in relief of him. But once Adams was in that position to get paid, and considering what you gave up for him, I just don't think that the team was willing to move on from that.
No, clearly not. I mean, Jamal Adams is a better player than Ryan Neal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's without question.
When healthy.
Yeah, when healthy. Yeah. And injury hadn't really been a major part of his career till he showed up in Seattle.
And now you have to wonder if like his future going forward, because having an injury to that same shoulder that he had surgery on, we bring up Bob Sanders' name all the time, right? When he was healthy, he was an all-pro for those 2 seasons he played 14 plus games, but he only played 14 plus games 2 seasons out of an 8-season career.
Yeah, I guess I went a different direction. I was like, I hope he doesn't have Bosworth's shoulders.
Yeah.
Where they just disintegrate and like, that's that, it's definitely a cause for concern for a guy who's known for hitting, and he's going to give it his all. He'll be back next year and all that stuff. There's no doubt about it. But that's part of the risk of doing these trades and these extensions and all that stuff. You can't predict health for the most part. There's a few guys you can pencil in, but for the most part, I mean, it feels pretty random, especially for the safety position, especially for a strong safety position. I mean, it's as short-lived as running back.
Well, it gave the opportunity for all of the Jamal Adams detractors to be out this week and ready to name it the worst trade in Seahawks history. At least of the John Schneider, Pete Carroll era.
How short-sighted. I mean, good Lord. Did they forget about Percy? They forget about Jimmy?
The argument with those is that, Jimmy, you got offensive production out of. Percy, you got a Super Bowl win out of the deal.
Yeah, that wasn't because of Percy.
You didn't have to give up a lot for Percy, though, either.
All right, fine, but he was still a headache and a cancer. And then Jimmy, that was the beginning of the end of the offensive line, getting rid of Unger. I think the Jimmy trade is far more egregious than...
Well, it's just the Jamal trade isn't done with. We haven't seen what the Jets ultimately get, what the Seahawks miss from giving up those picks.
So we're pissed off about the Jamal trade because he's going to miss the last 4 or 5 games of a lost season.
I think you're pissed about the Jamal trade because you had a season where Russ got injured, and in that type of season to where maybe you finish in the bottom 10, then you actually get rewarded somewhat with the all of the excitement that comes with having a top 10 pick, and there's just that can't happen because of the Jamal trade.
So to every one of those fans who are having a hissy over that, I want to rewind to before this season started, because I can remember, Brandon, us having the discussion on our season's expectations show and me looking at you and being like, dude, you can tell me this team is a 3-win team, a 13-win team, anything in between, and I'd believe it, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at just comments and the fan base as a whole and what you see in the narrative that fans put out there in all their fan posts and all that stuff, everybody believed this was at least a 10 to 12 win team. Everybody, every single person. How many of them were predicting a Russell Wilson finger injury that sidelined him for a quarter of the season? Well, I know how many. Freaking 0. And how can you hold John Schneider's feet to the fire if at the time you were like, oh yeah, this is great, it's all coming together, we're going to have a great season, and then something that's out of everybody's control, except for Aaron Donald in his forearm, like that's the thing that screwed this whole thing up that you couldn't foresee, and now you're pissed at John Schneider because, well, geez, he gave up a top 5 draft pick. What a jerk. And we don't even know if it's going to be that high to begin with. They could rattle off a bunch of wins here, and at best, it could be the 20th pick. Like there's a world in which that happens. So for all of you that are wringing your hands over the Jamal trade and the idea that you gave up a high draft pick this year, 1, you didn't know that going into the year. 2, you don't know it now. You don't know catfish.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes into how it's reported week to week, right? Because with the Seahawks, with them losing, every week you're hearing, as of right now, the Jets have a top whatever pick based on the Seahawks record. Well, yeah, as of right now, but the season isn't over. That's like the power rankings. You're ranking a team in the power rankings, and oh, they're 20th this week going into the week, Okay, the ultimate power rankings happened in the playoffs.
100%. Yeah, nobody gives a crap now. Well, you shouldn't anyway. But ask yourself this question too, Mr. Not you, but the person out there, I hate the Jamal trade guy. All right, so they would have had a pick in the 20s last year. What is their track record with that? Oh, I don't know. You might as well just light it on fire. Like, I mean, so you know that pick probably wasn't going to result in much anyways. And then let's say it's the 5th pick in the draft this upcoming year. There's not a big time quarterback that everybody's excited about. And so that leaves position players all around the field that you could choose from, right? Whether offensive or defensively.
Yeah.
And within that, are you really getting somebody that's better than Jamal Adams with that 5th pick?
If I'm playing through this in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, Penei Sewell went 7th last year. What if, with the way Dwayne Brown's looking this year, what if that future left tackle is there in the top 5, top 7 to where you might have had a pick? If the Seahawks record works out the way it did, I think just playing, fantasy in my mind, then yeah, that stinks. And at least if they struggled this year, Russ had his injuries, he could look at that and say, okay, that guy's there, then and Russ is still on the team, and okay, now we've satisfied Russ's demands by going out and we're get the future left tackle for Russ. And it all works out, and the Seahawks win a Super Bowl the following 3 years.
Right. Okay. So you're telling me that you'd be excited about the idea of the Seahawks drafting an offensive lineman in the first round this upcoming year to solve all of our problems, believe in that, rather than having Jamal Adams on the team? Because I don't know, Brandon. I remember the last few first-round picks that they've spent on offensive linemen. It's not like they're batting 1,000. Jermaine Ifedi.
If you're listening right now, do you want Adams' scenario where they have Jamal Adams on the team, or do you want my scenario where Jamal's not on the team, they draft a future left tackle that's as good as Walter Jones or better, and they win 3 straight Super Bowls? Which one of those scenarios do you want?
That's a guarantee. They're definitely drafting the next Walter Jones with the 7th pick in the draft or whatever it would be. You know what I mean? Like, and then not only that, but
you be a realist. I'm going to live in my fantasy world and just know that we have 3 Super Bowls on the way with Russ.
Hey, let's remember that you're going to pick early in the 2nd round, in the 3rd round, in the 4th round, in the 5th round, in the 6th round, right? Like, if you still continue on this trajectory, you're still going to have early picks in all of the subsequent rounds. Players come from all the rounds. It turns out you don't have to just get a guy at the top of the draft.
Yeah, I know from watching the Niners that top 10 picks on the defensive line generally seem to work out okay.
Yeah, I agree. Then you would have to trust the organization to actually make the pick to spend that in the trenches, because that's not what they do. And then look, this last game against the Niners was a great example. Niners damn near won this game, and they have one skill position player and then Jimmy G, and we're in this game because they dominated the trenches.
Right. This team, it's obvious where they need to build it. And it sounds like you don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to do that. And I don't think you should, based on track record either.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only reason. I really hope that I'm wrong. I hope they go out this offseason and really invest in the lines and bring in some real dudes. I mean, when you think about it over the years, the idea that they couldn't bring in a Calais Campbell for a 6th round pick at some point, or, you know, bring in one of the free agent guards or something like that, right? One of the high end guys, or they pass on the center in the draft that they had a real shot at. And you're just like, golly, for what? For what? More perimeter guys?
It made me laugh a little bit when I was hearing some talk about how the Seahawks should have given up a 6th round pick for Gardner Minshew in the offseason because, you know, based on
they should have. They should have. I'll give you the quick argument for that.
Okay.
You give up a 6th for Minshew. Russ goes down with the injury. Minshew comes in and looks good for a few games.
And then you trade him.
Who cares if and then you flip him for a 4th.
Sure. Yeah, and then you don't have. Well, I'm saying that was your one pick for offensive line depth, and if we're talking about trenches, then there's one less guy that you have in the trenches because you traded for a backup quarterback he's better than Geno.
Yeah, you could also draft those guys higher up in the draft too. Like, you don't have to wait till the 6th, 7th undrafted free agents to build your offensive line depth.
You probably didn't need Eskridge in the 2nd.
No, you did not need Eskridge in the freaking 2nd. Receivers are a dime a dozen. Like, at least the Skitter type receivers, right? The little option route guys, the Wes Welkers of the world, the Julian Edelmans of the world. They're a dime a dozen. You can find them anywhere.
Just like you can find running backs anywhere.
More or less.
And we don't.
No, we do. We haven't had a problem short of Penny finding running backs. We have found good running backs. Problem is that they don't find good offensive linemen.
All right. Is there anything that we need to talk about with this Texans game? I feel like we've done everything but talk about this game against the Texans, but we don't even know if Terod Taylor's going to play, if Davis Mills is going to play. It probably doesn't even matter if either one of those plays. Doesn't matter which guy plays.
We need this win. I mean, I really want this team to win out and go 9-8. I don't care if they make it or don't. like into the playoffs. I just want a strong finish to the season so that everybody involved has a legit want to be back. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody has to be back, but I just want everybody to want to be back.
I want the Seahawks and Niners to tie and the Seahawks to make the playoffs based on their undefeated record over the 49ers.
Yeah. I do have to
That's all I want.
I think that you've been a good boy this year and you deserve it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's get to the second half of the show. Just to pile on the Niners a little bit more.
Yeah.
The 49ers were the only NFC West team to lose this last week. Man, must suck to be those guys.
Yeah, well, it does suck to be those guys because, I mean, they look like a blow it up situation, don't they? Like if you were a San Francisco fan, like let's say you were dropped on your head as a kid and somehow became a San Francisco fan. Let's say you were that, you somehow had that sort of unfortunate events in your life. Wouldn't you want them to blow it up at this point? Aren't you tired of Shanahan and Jimmy G and Lynch in the whole nine?
To an extent, I could see how you would get to that place as a Niners fan, just because all the expectations and they have essentially one good winning season.
Yeah.
And you're allowing that to trick you into thinking that Shanahan is an amazing coach and Lynch is an amazing GM.
I heard Simmons talk about it in terms of he was trying to decide whether or not to bet against the Niners on a game. And he's like, what? I get points and I'm going against Kyle Shanahan's 450 winning percentage? I'm in. Because you're right. Other than that 1 year, it's been pretty abysmal.
Yeah, you've given Shanahan enough of an opportunity. He's even said himself, there were Niners fans who they just couldn't believe that Trey Lance didn't get into this game once, even just for a running play down near the goal line, something to change it up. And Kyle's talked about in the past how, it throws off, I get into a rhythm with my play calling and I see different defenses when I put Trey Lance into the game. And so it kind of takes me out of that flow and mindset. So you're this offensive genius and you can't imagine in your mind that when you put out your quarterback that the defense is going to show you something different, maybe play you more run heavy, and that you can't call plays to work around that. Like that's that challenging for you as a head coach?
What's challenging for him is trying to find the words to not say to the media that they totally effed up in picking Trey Lance, because he is so far from being ready as an NFL quarterback. It's not even funny. Just trying to rein him in and get his accuracy issues under control, his decision-making under control. Like, that's how bad that pick is at this point, that he can't beat out Jimmy freaking G, or at least even make it competitive, right? He hasn't even seen the field for like 4 games.
No, not since Jimmy was hurt.
When he didn't even look good then. So Kyle's doing everything that he can to try to mask the idea that, so we kind of sold the future of the franchise out to pick Trey, and he hasn't been good at all.
That's too bad.
And the thing is that the Niners fans killing him. Well, geez, we could have had Mac Jones. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, you were crapping on him for everybody was. I was.
I'm totally fine with how it turned out. But also, too, Mac Jones goes to the Niners, and he's not the Mac Jones you see right now. He's just not. He went to the one place in the freaking world where his skill set would work really well with the team and with a coach that could build around that. He just won a game throwing the ball 3 times. And you're telling me Mac Jones is the difference maker there? I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it's the $158 million Belichick spent in the freaking offseason.
Building the team around him, right.
Yes. So you wouldn't have been any better off with Mac Jones, Niner fan. He would have stood back there like a statue like Jimmy G too, with poor coaching and poor playmakers around him, and you'd still be frustrated.
Well, all you needed, though, and I think this is what the Niners' argument is, and really why they picked Trey Lance to begin with, is they needed Jimmy Garoppolo that doesn't turn the ball over. And the version of Jimmy that doesn't turn the ball over is kind of similar to Mac Jones, But you had this college guy in Trey Lance who never turned the ball over, and you had all the upside of athleticism that you didn't have with Jones.
He didn't turn the ball over in his 13 pass attempts in his college career.
Hey, it's like Rashad Penny never got injured when he was never touched as a running back playing college at San Diego State.
Or that his yards after contact. I guess it's the same, yards after catch, yards after contact. I never really realized that till just now. Anyhow, Penny's yak in college was godlike, right? And then you go back and you look at the tape, and the quote broken tackles that he's breaking are like a guy going down to the ground and reaching an arm out and getting a finger on his leg, and he runs it for 45 yards, and now he's got huge yak. Same thing with Trey Lance and the turnovers thing. Sure, he didn't really turn it over, and then you go and you look on the film, and it's good throw, good throw. Oh God, what the hell was that? Like there was so much of that I'm not surprised that he can't beat out turnover Jimmy.
Well, I think there's a lot of teams out there that can look at statistics and use that to justify a decision that they want to make.
100%. But the Niners are in a tough spot, and I think they're in a blow it up situation. If I, again, happened to eat lead paint as a child and became a Niners fan, that's how I would feel.
Well, another NFC West news, Arizona beat Chicago 33-22.
They're back, baby. They're so underrated, Brandon. How come nobody's talking about the Cardinals? How come they don't get any of their due?
Kyler Murray for MVP.
Kyler for MVP. How is it that everybody's only talking about the Bucs and the Packers as the number one seed? The Cardinals are just underappreciated, Brandon.
I'm curious to see. Well, they play the Rams this week, so that should be a win. And then they play the Lions, so that should be a win. They're going to go into their final 3 games 12-2.
Yeah, probably.
And they play the Colts at Cowboys. Then they come to Seattle for the finale.
Right. So they finish the season at what?
They could win. I guess they could lose 2 of those last 3 games.
Whatever their record is at the end of the regular season.
13-4.
13-4. All right. So whatever. So 13-4. What you need to do when you're thinking about their record at the end of the 2021 season, just add one more loss to that, because that's going to be their end record after they are a first round exit in the freaking playoffs.
That could happen.
They are so overrated.
I am kind of curious looking at the Rams, how they close out their schedule. So, man,
that's scary for them.
It is, because they could lose to the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know. They might actually match up well.
I don't know that it matters. I mean, Stafford's at that point of the year where he's beat up and he looks freaking like a deer in the headlights. Yeah, he's not right again. They didn't get better. They're not all back because they drummed the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Going into that game, though, they lost 3 straight times.
Yeah.
Then coming out of the Cardinals game, they play Seattle, at Minnesota, at Ravens, and finish at home against the 49ers, who have their number.
Those are all potential losses. I mean, like legit potential losses. So that was what, 4 games? They have 4 games left?
They have 5 games left. They're 8-4.
They're 8-4. And of those 5 games, I'm going to say they lose at least 3 of them.
Yeah, 10-7 seems about right.
So that would, that would make
that still puts them in the playoffs.
2-3, and they've been 1-4 over their last 4. So the second half of the season, that would make them 3-7 or 3-6 or whatever it is. Sean McVay gets fired.
No.
Yeah.
Well, if they did a first round exit type thing, maybe I could see that. I don't know if I don't know if he gets fired or they just allow him to walk so he can walk into the announcer's booth and you have to listen to his annoyingly grating voice during football games.
Oh my God. If I had to, I would.
Does he gargle razor blades? How does Sean McVay make his voice sound like that?
I don't know. It must be because of the deal he made with the devil to get where he's at or whatever it is. But I could not listen to his smug catfish for an entire broadcast.
I don't even care about the content that he talks about. Just
Are we sure?
The sound of his voice.
Yeah, it's as bad as the content. Yeah.
Everybody talking about, oh, he's going to be great in the announcer's booth. Really? People are going to want to listen to them.
I guess. I don't know. For whatever reason, people fall in love with Pretty Boy McVay. There is no doubt about it.
The thing is, though, he's not there to be looked at.
I don't get it.
What do you say we welcome some members of the flock?
Hey, it was a win. I expected a few new members.
Well, we don't have any new members, but we do have our executive producers, DCH, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Kevin Watterson. And then Oliver Fleck came in, gave us a raise from $3 to $4 Canadian dollars. So thanks to Oliver.
That's right. You should all be thanking Oliver, because if he hadn't have done that, then I would be really angry at all of you right now, all of you freeloaders who didn't get off the freeloader bandwagon after a win, after we've been gutting through these heart-wrenching games, and everybody's on cloud nine, and we can't get one more new member of the flock. Freaking freeloaders, dude.
Yeah, well, Oliver came in and saved the day.
Yeah. Otherwise, you would have had to gotten berated like that if Oliver hadn't saved the day.
That is what Adam had prepared for you if
Right?
Oliver didn't come in.
Yeah. You dirty freeloaders.
Well, I'm hoping I didn't miss anything, because it felt like a good week. I felt like I was in a good place, and then, you kind of took me to a dark place with that potential condemnation of freeloaders.
Yeah, man. I'm a roller coaster, dude. Like, I got to keep you on your toes. It's a lot of fun.
So if I left off your name and you're feeling bad that Adam even had to utter those words, then just send me an email. Let me know. Say,
there you go.
You missed me. Give me a shout out next time.
Right.
I'll make that work.
And Adam sucks.
That too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got a tiny pieces of Seahawks stuff to give away. I will do the video. I know it's 10 days into December already, but I have the Russell Wilson, the 4 little pieces, and then we're going from 4 to 3 this month, Adam. I got tiny pieces there. We got triple threats. It's numbered 9 out of 299. You got Russell Wilson. You got star running back Rashad Penny. And then you have Seahawks legend Doug Baldwin.
Okay.
3 legends on 1 card.
Interesting. What I find very interesting about that is that with the 3 different uniforms that they cut up to put into cards, they couldn't get 300 cards out of it. Only 299.
Only 299.
You couldn't stretch that. Couldn't make like a couple smaller pieces in there or something.
I don't know where the numbering comes from. The thing of what they do, though, with a lot of these, they have them numbered to 299, and then they have a different looking one that's numbered to 199, and then another one that's numbered to 99.
Do these guys think that fools people somehow? Like the people that price things that, like, say you were going to buy, I don't know, some cottage cheese, and instead of being $5, it's $4.98. You're like, oh, it's more like $4.
Yeah.
Like, nobody falls for that.
Catfish!
Like, why do we do that?
I don't know. If you want to make it seem like a real deal, why not go to a nickel, like $4.95? Right. You're not messing around with pennies.
Yeah. No, it would solve a bunch of problems. Imagine how much warmer the planet is with all the energy we've spent making freaking pennies. That's a lot of zinc to mine.
It makes it so we can have 60-degree days in December.
Right. Well, that went away.
It went away fast. We got snow.
Yeah. It was a straight up blizzard yesterday.
We're back to normal here in Montana weather-wise.
Yep. Seahawks are beating the Niners. The snow is falling in December. It's all back to normal.
Unlimited Hawkra still leading in the Pick'em League with 123 points. And Darth Jamal coming up at number 2, tied for number 2 with Tuga Hawk at 122 points. And you got Chelsea Hawks, Israeli Hawks in the top 5. And let's see who we got here. 120 points. Deep K Threat Calf, the Fellowship of the Bling, and What a Hasselbeck.
Nice.
Then the winner this week. Oh my goodness. How do we not disqualify this person just on name alone? How is Pancakes Over Waffles winning with 14 points in week 13?
I don't know, man. It's not because they have great taste in breakfast foods. Like that's clearly the issue there.
Yeah.
But they did it. They did it.
Congratulations, Pancakes Over Waffles.
That's fine. You can take that victory right now, but probably tomorrow morning you're going to have a sadder breakfast than you should. Because you could have had waffles.
The one thing I forgot to announce was that the winner of Week 13 gets a $25 gift card to the Waffle House.
Perfect. I love it.
So, congratulations.
Yeah. I was 39, 38 before I ever ate at a Waffle House for the first time.
Honestly, I don't know if I've ever eaten at Waffle House.
Oh, for those people that are confused, I mean, it's just not a Western chain. Like, there's just not much out here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of when I remembered seeing it most. It must have been on the East Coast.
Right. And then I've noticed when I've been down south, there's also a ripoff of Waffle House called Huddle House.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They use the same shape buildings. They do the whole thing. They're basically the McDowell's of Waffle Houses, like from Coming to America.
I wonder if it's a strategic thing. Like, we're going to build all these buildings the same, build up a chain just to get bought out. So that way you can expand into this area and they make a bunch of money that way.
I would say that's probably the case, but oftentimes you see them not far from each other.
Yeah.
But then again, you see the Dollar Tree and Dollar General within, like, a stone's throw usually.
Home Depot and Lowe's right across the street from each other.
Right. There's a divorce somewhere in there that there's a pissing contest between the ex-wife and Arthur.
I can't
Blank
remember if
Home
that's
Depot.
like a legit thing or if that's just the...
It's legit. Mark it down for sure. Don't look it up. It feels right. I'll put it that way.
I remember hearing the story and I like the story and I feel like it's one of those stories that we all want to believe because it sounds so like a good story.
It does. It feels right in my gut, and we all know that our gut has more nerve endings in it than our brain. So, again, don't look that up.
Well, speaking of the pick'em, Jake Myers came in, a.k.a. Daddy 3 times, and he's changing up his strategy for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Says, Hey, fellas, since things have not gone so well for me in the pick'em league this year, I've decided instead to go all in on my Hawkra. From now on, I will only be making picks that, if correct, would benefit the small chance of our beloved Seahawks making the playoffs. For example, this week I'll be picking the Steelers, Cowboys, Falcons, Jets, Chargers, Bengals, and Packers. Let the fucking Rams and the Cardinals eat each other. And as always, no matter what, I'll be picking the Seahawks forever. Hopefully, by making this sacrifice to the football gods, they will see fit to grant our Hawks a playoff berth. Catfish! The Niners, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Yeah, that's how it felt after this last Sunday, too. I mean, the first thing that I thought was just catfish the Niners. Yeah. And screw the rest of them, too. Like, it felt so good. And I like his new strategy. I mean, that could definitely help.
I listened to a little bit of the Better Rivals. Well, no, not just a little bit. I listened to the entire Better Rivals podcast this week because I wanted to hear Oscar's reaction following this loss.
How's Oscar doing? Is Oscar okay?
Does
he live on the ground floor? I hope he does.
He's taken the loss a little bit tough, but it led to an incredible Oscar rant at the end of that episode. So if you don't want to hear any of the Niners talk, just skip ahead to maybe 1 minute left in the episode.
Oh, fabulous.
And he just goes at Seahawks fans, much like we do at Niners fans. And what I should do is I should cut it up and I should have your voice saying Niners and just replace it with throughout the Oscar rant. And it probably wouldn't sound much different than how you and I feel about. Yeah.
Okay. That's funny. I'll have to listen. Because I'm sure he was saying all of this stuff about how we legit suck and we shouldn't be happy and blah, 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 blah. Well,
I think
we're your daddy, dude. The Seahawks are the Niners' daddy.
No, and that's what infuriates him, is that no matter what, and just like going into this game, I told you that Niners fans had themselves fooled into thinking that their team was good based off the last 3 wins in a row.
Yeah.
And they tricked themselves.
They did. Well, it's not hard to do. Just the IQ quotient of the average Niners fan. It's just not exactly.
Oscar got dropped on his head as a child, and now he's a Niner. And otherwise, he's a good guy, except he picked the wrong team to root for. And wrong college team to root for too. But yeah,
exactly. I think Oscar grew up next to high voltage power lines. I think that's what the problem with him was.
John in Louisville, Kentucky comes in, says fired up for the Seahawks' first Wrath of Khan victory in a long time. We have nothing to gain by winning, but the 49ers had things to lose, and that is what was important. From hell's heart we stab at thee. For hate's sake, we fake our first punt at thee. The games may have only the most tangential connection to the postseason now, but winning is still better than losing, and a little schadenfreude in your sports fandom can be fun.
Heck yeah, man. Like, you had to enjoy it. You had to, just a little bit. I know I did. It just felt good, and it felt right, and yeah, man, it's been a tough year, so I'm going to take the good when we get it.
The Bard comes in, says, "Hi, fellas. Been keeping my head and keeping out of the way of the BFT. But he rang me, and we met up after their win. Actually, he didn't gloat because he's fat too nice for that, but he has a permanent grin at the moment after winning 4 in a row. I actually smiled myself about 1 a.m. on Monday morning when we finally beat the 49ers, because it was a good win despite a few squeaky bum moments. So thank you, Jimmy G, for all those Christmas presents. They were much appreciated. I listened to the last few broadcasts, listening to everyone venting their spleen and ripping their garments. So what's wrong, and who's to blame? Personally, I lay the blame squarely at the stadium cat. Noticeably, Russell is playing badly, and a few more playing/coaching badly, but sometimes sportish
Catfish!
And when the planets align like that,
Catfish!
happens. Let's see how it all pans out. I hear the calls for sacking Pete/John and the stadium cat, but with age comes experience. But there comes a point where you go past it. Are we there now? I don't know. Hoping to crush the Texans and bugger the Jets draft pick. Go Hawks from the Bard.
Go Hawks, John. Yeah, I just want these. I want them to run off this last 4 games. I said it earlier, and it's just how I feel about it, man. Like, I want them to screw the Jets on that pick. Yeah, that would feel good. And also, too, if they rip off a bunch of wins here at the end, that means that, we screw over the Niners, the Rams, and the Cards a little bit. Yes, that's what I want out of life for this dumpster fire of a season.
There's still a chance that they could finish with a winning season, go 9-8. I want that.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And look, in the NFC, there's a legit chance that a 9-loss team makes the playoffs still. I mean, if you look at the teams that are above us that we need to lose, I mean, you have a lot of faith in the Panthers, Bears, Falcons.
I don't even want to get into any of the scenarios. The only scenario I want is to finish with the same record as the Niners and for them to miss the playoffs because we have the 2 wins against them.
Exactly. And some of those other teams are going to have to lose too along the way to make that happen. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll see how it all plays out. What is the percentage? Like, where's Cynthia Freeland and her little computer models? Does she come up with a negative 4,000% chance that we make the playoffs now, or where is that? Because it's got to be under 3%, right?
Do you really want to do this? You want to be on Seahawks playoff watch at this point of the season?
No, I'm just curious. Because it's house money. I'm not.
538.com, they do those prediction percentages. The Seahawks are at 3%.
That sounds magical, does it not?
It does sound magical.
Beat 3 leave. Yeah.
The Niners at 6-6 are at 62%.
So the problem with math is that it doesn't watch the games.
Right.
Math doesn't know who Jimmy is.
Oh, they go on the road at Cincy, and then they play Atlanta.
No Debo, no Fred Warner still.
No. If they lose to Cincinnati and Atlanta back-to-back, that's within the realm of possibility. They
For
should
sure,
beat Atlanta.
Cincy. I don't know about Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't know about Atlanta either.
Cincy's respectable this year.
But yeah, 3%. There's a 3% chance. But there's also still a 0.000001% chance that the Lions make the playoffs. Did you see that?
Does that factor in a meteor or like?
There's a list of all the scenarios, and it was like 6 or 7 scenarios each week that have to play out perfectly for the Lions to be able to still make it into the playoffs. But there is a chance.
Yeah, well, saying there's a chance, I guess. I was excited for them for their win, though. I listened to the end of that game as I was driving, and that was fun, man. I mean, to actually have Goff, go down and get a stat?
There's literally only one team that can't make the playoffs right now.
The Texans?
It's the Texans.
Yeah. All right.
So help me, we lose, and Pete Carroll is still the coach the following week.
Oh, you said even in season.
I could see an in-season firing if you lose to the Texans.
Okay.
That's why I said that this is on Russ this week. If he wants it to happen, he can make it happen.
All right. Well, I guess we'll find out here a little bit. No, I wondered after that first half of the Niners game, it's like, does Pete even make it through the year? Like, I don't know. I don't know. But they run 5 games off here. Like, is Pete back next year? I mean, it's literally, both things are in range.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be a wild offseason, but we're not there yet. We still got a 3% chance at the playoffs. So let's see. Yeah. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Speaking of playoffs, we have one of our flockers out there who is still thinking about the last playoff game against the Packers. Terrence Robinson emails in, says, amongst the militant hawkers, I go by the code name That Is Rad. Further, I'm a proud member of the Field Goals professional staff, assigned surreptitiously by Lord and Savant Mookie Alexander to bring you the daily links every day. In time, I hope to move from mopping the floors at Field Goals and in like a Goodwill Hunting style rise into the world of Seahawks-centric sports blogging, work for Field Goals. For now, if you don't mind, I would like to vent. I have one outstanding grievance in the most recent history of this team that to me stands out as the penultimate moment that encapsulates our team's shortcomings. It's a simple omen, a big moment, and a common, if not historically odd choice for Pete Carroll. Punt on 4th down. It's 2019. It's the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. Our beloved Seahawks are playing the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin again. And again, we are trying to exercise 2 decades worth of demons in one victorious motion. Bottom line, we had a shot late in the game, less than 3 minutes to go. Hawks need to stop. We get the Packers to 3rd down. Coach Ken Norton, who's been criticized for his play calling since he started drawing plays in the sand as a 7-year-old, dials up one of the most Seahawk plays of all Seahawk plays of all time, a wide blitz from the Griffin brothers, one from the right, one from the left. Result, a sack, a huge sack, a spiritual and uplifting sack. We've got the ball. We've got Russ. We've got this. The offense hits the field with the perfect amount of time to drain the clock and score a teeter. Demons exercised and we are back in the title game, baby. Instead, we go 3 and out. Carroll directs the team to punt. A bashful decision by a usually brave and powerful man. Going for it on 4th down against the Packers was not an easy choice, but a brave choice that was easy to make, especially if Pete had considered wholly his best friend and colleague, Coach Norton, who had just called one of the best plays in his entire turbulent and wonky career as a DC. It was his best play call and result ever. It still is. Back up your friend and your quarterback, Pete. Back up your defense. Support the ethereal, the unseen, the inexplicable. Do not turn your back on fate. Pete not going for it on 4th down against the Packers following that incredible transformative sack is when Pete turned his back on the Seahawks' much-earned and well-regarded Hawkra. Pete broke the circle. He left the seance early, and we've never been the same since. Thanks for letting me vent. Love, Terrence, a.k.a. That Is Rad, and of course, go Hawks.
Hey, man, how do you like them apples? That was his Goodwill Hunting coming out party right there. Look, that's one of them. Yeah, that's one of them. I feel like every Seahawk fan, every 12 out there has a moment where they look at Pete and they're like, that's the 4th down decision? And like, it's just the pentultimate. Is that the word?
Penultimate.
That's a word I don't use. But I think everybody has a different one for Pete in terms of 4th down decisions. But that's as good a one as any.
That was a moment, and I can tell it's stuck with Terrence.
Absolutely.
I still do love that Shaq Griffin brother moment, though.
That was an amazing moment. You betcha. The brothers Griffin coming in and getting after Rodgers. How much fun is it to see Rodgers like fourth in the voting of MVP in a year where there's really no MVP, where he would probably be the MVP, but the media just hates him.
Yeah, they don't. They won't give it to him.
No.
I suppose Tom Brady and the Bucs aren't playing quite well enough that you put Tom Brady.
Tom. It will be Tom.
It should be Tom. It's just like when they gave it to Tom for his 40th, right? Like every 5 years, if Tom Brady's still in the league and playing well, like he gets an MVP after 40.
They'll have to rename the award at some point to just like Tom Brady's anniversary MVP award. Anniversary celebration MVP.
Put him
award.
down, just etch his name into the trophy for his 50-year-old season.
Exactly. I don't know what you get a dude in his 50-year-old season. You know how marriage.
Oh yeah, you start the trophy then has to be different metals, right? Like copper and then a diamond trophy.
Yeah, like paper, copper. Yeah, you kind of work your way up. I mean, if he wins it at the age of 50, what do you have to do? Go like mine an asteroid for the rarest mineral in the solar system and then make the trophy out of that?
Yeah. There you go. Oh, okay. Good idea.
All right, well, I'm in.
You're on the Tom Brady MVP committee, the trophy exploration committee.
If it gets us out into space and doing more, I'm all for it.
Well, speaking of that, what do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
All right, man. My do better this week is again for Peter Catfish Schrager. I've just had enough of the guy. I really have. I can't listen to the episode that he comes on with Bill Simmons anymore. Can't do it. And this was a very short phrase this week that he had to say. But Simmons is talking about, he's like, oh, all the, Danny Kelly works with him at the Ringer, Mina Kimes, right? Like, he's like, yeah, all my Seahawks friends, man, they're just all tore up about this year and like just don't know what to do and are really upset. It's something along those lines. And Schrager goes, well, they should be because there's no future. There's no way out of the situation they're in, and they have no first round pick this year. That's what he freaking said to Bill Simmons, the guy who just a couple weeks earlier had said, well, what the Rams are doing is so great because it's never been done before, because that's really the team that has no catfishing future. They're in a spiral of a season now at the end of the year as old man Stafford, who's actually 50 years old instead of 32, is falling apart. McVay's genius is falling apart. Now Aaron Donald is even getting pushed around by teams on the defensive line, and they don't have first-round picks until 30-46. Like, it's literally that far away. And we're the ones that don't have any future. There's no way out. You're telling me that you couldn't, fire Pete. Or, keep Pete and trade Russ for a bunch of first-round picks. Or maybe you could keep them both. Maybe you could parlay a couple later round picks into a late first round pick. You're telling me there's no other assets on the team you could trade?
There's no chance. No future.
There's no chance. There's no future, says Peter Catfishing Schrager, the biggest Rams homer in the history of Rams homers. I'm so sick that I just can't handle it. Do better.
That is the worst part about it, is that the Homer goggles has him blinded to essentially similar things happening in LA.
No, not essentially similar. Far worse in LA when you talk about their future. They went all in for right now, today. That's it. And it's not working. And then we're the ones that don't have future. The Niners traded a bunch of first rounders for a guy who can't throw on the regular.
My do better this week is for random Saints fan at Target this past week.
Okay.
I'm checking out at Target, and this guy gives me a look. He's like, oh, a Seahawks fan, huh? Because I got my Seahawks gear on.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, Seahawks fan. Who's your team? That's always my go-to question is, because you can usually tell that, is it a Niners fan that just, they want to talk crap, or, yeah. Well, he says, oh, I'm a fan of the Saints. I'm like, oh, well, the Saints aren't that bad. Like, I don't have beef with Saints fan.
Not really. My sports hate isn't off the charts for the Saints. No, not at all.
He says, well, I just don't like people who are fans after their teams are winners. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at this guy at Target. This Saints fan could not be more than 21, 22 years old.
You're telling me that maybe he wasn't a fan of the Saints back in the Bobby Hebert days and things like that?
You have never seen tough times as a Saints fan with Sean Payton as your head coach for essentially your entire life. So you can't lecture me about Seahawks fans who are jumping on the bandwagon and being fans of a team that have only ever seen winning in their lives as well. You are a Saints fan that has only ever seen success. So look in the mirror at people who are bandwagon fans, in your case too, and do better.
This is probably the first year of his existence as a football fan without Drew Brees in his life.
Yeah.
Well, I can't stand front runners. Okay. Well, I don't know if you saw, but this season, it's been a total dumpster fire, and we're 3-8 at the time, right? And I'm still wearing my gear and a fan of the team.
Yeah,
like
just like you and I are the same. Why are you? A Seahawks fan,
right? Okay, here I'll give you another one. This one was kind of in the same vein a little bit, but Brittany wears one of her Seahawks hoodies to work one day, bartending, right? And some dudes who are out duck hunting or whatever, they weren't locals, but they came in and they start giving her catfish about wearing the Seahawks hoodie.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, I'll tell you, I'm not really a big football person. It's my boyfriend's, favorite team and all that. And as they're razzing her and she says that, the guy loses it. And he's like, well, you can tell that MFer to go and put his mask back on and drive his ass back over to Seattle.
What?
Yeah. And it was like, what are you talking about? Like, somehow turned it into like a political thing that I like Seahawks football.
No, you helped organize that 6 blocks radius in downtown Seattle where it was pure anarchy. And
okay, well, in fairness, that's a little bit my style, but I didn't do it. But yeah, I don't know. It was just so weird that somebody comes up to you based on what you have on and like make a bunch of assumptions.
Yeah.
Like one way or the other. Yeah. And like there was a lot of vitriol they threw her way just because of that, on a political level. And it's like, are you not a full grown adult? Like you can't compartmentalize like maybe the politics of a certain city and their football team and how they play football.
And who cares?
On top of all that,
why would you care that much?
I don't know. I don't know. But again, 49ers fans, like the brain damage is real. So
were they 49ers fans?
I just assumed. I mean, they sounded stupid.
On to Better at Life.
All right.
My Better at Life this week is for Joe Buck. Joe Buck was on the Manning cast this last week, and he had a real good zinger that I'm sure if you're out on social media, you saw it, you heard it, but if not, it is worthy of playing once again.
Hey, Joe, when y'all have a blowout game, do you ever wish you could have a guest on there that you and Troy could interview?
Yeah, the last time I thought about that was when you guys played Seattle at the Super Bowl.
Oh, shots fired. Yes.
Who do you think took more joy in that? Seahawks fans or Eli?
That's a good question.
I'm going to go with Eli.
Because Eli has never faced any kind of shutout like that, or any kind of Super Bowl matchup like that. Isn't he 2-0 in his Super Bowl
adversity?
Yeah.
0 Super Bowl adversity for Eli.
So I bet he points to that and gives his older brother a hard time about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been blown out in a Super Bowl. I haven't never even lost a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I just beat Tom Brady when I go to Super Bowls. What do you do?
That's all I do.
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever beaten Tom Brady? Oh, not in a Super Bowl.
Oh, well, that's cute. I really enjoy your last ring with the Broncos where you didn't do anything. That's really cute, Peyton.
So, yeah, I think you're right. I think Eli enjoyed that more. As a Seahawks fan, I'll defer to Eli on that.
All right.
And to Joe Buck for bringing it up. Better at life than Skip Bayless.
I didn't know that I'd ever hear that phrase on this podcast. Joe Buck, better at life than Skip Bayless. But
there it is. It happens.
There's a lot of Joe Buck hatred among the Ring of Honor. A lot of people don't like Joe.
No, and it's fine. But I think, I think in this one case, that we can all come together and agree that Joe Buck is better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
For just for that moment alone.
I agree that we should agree. That was a good time.
All right, good.
I'm having a hard time picking my better at life, man. I've got two things I wanted to talk about, but
go with Tyler Lockett. He got the Seahawks Man of the Year thing.
I really don't care about that award. Like, that's such an NFL PR award that I just don't care.
No, when he goes and he sits in the box with Roger Goodell and has to watch the Super Bowl,
right,
and see some really good receiver win, and then he can go on an off-season tirade about how he wants to be traded. That's what's going to happen with Tyler Lockett now after this last year with Russ. It's destiny for the ultimate Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Sure. Okay. I really don't care. I just don't. But good for Tyler. I mean, he's a good enough nominee. I mean, he's a nice guy and seems to.
He's the nicest guy.
Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, I'm fine with it.
Until he turns into diva mode and in his interview with Dan Patrick to celebrate the award. Yeah. Then
maybe it's Tyler Lockett that blows up the Seahawks this offseason.
You don't know.
If I had money to put down, it definitely wouldn't be on Tyler blowing up the Seahawks. That's for sure. All right. So my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for none other than Turbo, Robert Turbin.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was on the halftime show on the radio broadcast, the Seahawks radio
he's been
broadcast.
doing not 710. I think he's been doing KJR's radios. Yeah. Or no, it has been 710. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, wherever he's been doing it. Anyways, I caught him during his halftime analysis, right? And he's talking about this, talking about that. He's like, the defense is going to make a play and really turn this around. He's like, Quandre Diggs is going to have an interception that's going to really be a big play in this game. I know it's going to be Quandre. And I was like, all right, okay. Kind of a bold prediction there. That's cool. Yeah, because Q went out and he actually gets the interception, proves Nostradamus Turbo correct. And that's the end of that. So to Miss Cleo Robert Turbin, better at life than Skip Bayless. Now he just needs to predict on the next halftime show that we're winning out and making the playoffs.
That's it. You have your marching orders, Turbo.
Yeah.
Call the shot. We need it.
Hey, the other thing that I did want to talk about though was, did you enjoy watching Patriots Bills on Monday night?
You know, it's one that I want to go back and watch now after the fact, because I didn't have the opportunity to watch it in real time. But I thought it was the way it was being sold after the fact, like the Patriots won the game because they only threw and they did it only throwing the ball 3 times. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, well, that seems like a weird kind of Belichick thing to do. And then I find out that, it's because 60-mile-an-hour winds were ripping through.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, that makes sense then. Like, that context helps me understand why they would only throw the ball 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved watching that game. It was fascinating to me to watch basically 1940s football be played out there in Orchard Park, and to watch Bill Belichick be the master of situational football. Like you said, there's context to only Mac didn't throw. He only threw 1 pass up until like the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
You know, and in that win, he doesn't have the arm to cut through it. Not like Josh Allen. And that's where I thought the Bills screwed up, is that they tried to play the Patriots game as well in, be a ground and pound team. But it was just fascinating to watch that coaching matchup play out in Bill's game plan. And then I think at some point he just was like, hey, Josh, let's see if we can throw it less than 5 times in this game. I think historically that'd be pretty cool. So yeah, let's do that. He took so much joy out of it. Like,
sure.
Fullbacks galore, big runs, the big offensive lineman clearing the path. Like, that was physical football. And the one thing that should give all Seahawks fans a little pause is that I listened to Pete's Wednesday press conference and they asked him about it. And he loved that game a little too much. He's like, oh my gosh, I loved watching that, the hard-nosed football, blah, 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 blah. Kind of all the stuff I was just talking about. But if you're expecting Pete to change really over the course of time, like his true colors popped out right there.
Yeah, I have to imagine that Pete got some joy out of that.
Remember that Monday night game between Chiefs Rams in Mexico City a few years ago, and everybody was like, that was the greatest Monday night football game of all time. It was 79 to 83.
Right.
You know, what a great game. Nah, this game was way better. I enjoyed this way more.
I think both of them can be entertaining.
No, only one can.
And with that,
There's only one thing left to say.
go Hawks.
Go Hawks.